Moving on, diplomatic sources have told NHK a train that appears to be from North Korea arrived in Beijing on Monday. This is fueling speculation that its leader Kim Jong-un or his younger sister are visiting the country. A video of a train has also surfaced on Weibo, the Chinese version of Twitter. It shows a dark green train with a yellow line, which is similar to the design of trains from North Korea. There has also been increased security in Beijing. NHK correspondents saw about a dozen vehicles arrive at the Diaoyutai State Guest House. But there have been no reports in North Korean state-run media about any high-level visits to China. A Chinese government official was asked in a press briefing about any possible visit. She said she had no information on the matter. A member of the North Korean parliament has said the United States should end its hostile policy toward Pyongyang. This comes as the country is increasing diplomatic activities ahead of upcoming inter-Korean talks in a possible summit with the U.S.
Now is the time for the U.S. to put an end to its anachronistic hostile policy, futile sanctions, and pressure on us.
Lee Jong-hyuk is among a four-member North Korean delegation to the Inter-Parliamentary Union in Geneva, where he spoke on Monday. Lee touched on the talks between his country's leader Kim Jong-un and South Korean President Moon Jae-in's envoys. He said Pyongyang's efforts to improve ties with the South enjoy broad support from the international community. But he did not mention the potential U.S.-North Korea summit.
So much has happened, and earlier this month, President Trump announced that he would personally meet with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un to try to put an end to the standoff over the country's nuclear weapons. But according to reports, President Trump will not be the first foreign leader to take a meeting with Rocket Man. Bloomberg News is reporting that Kim is currently in China in his first foreign trip since taking power in 2011. Trying to make sense of all of this. Is this really happening? Let's bring in Gordon Chang, who's the author of Nuclear Showdown, North Korea Takes on the World. And with me here in Washington is Harry Kazianis, the director of the Defense Studies at the Center for the National Interest, two experts in China and North Korea. Gordon, let's start with you. I read this today and I almost fell out of my chair. I mean, the armored car procession going from North Korea to China. Are we all being punked here? I mean, what's going on?
Well, first of all, there's no confirmation that Kim Jong-un is in Beijing, but I believe that he is. And what's going on is that Xi Jinping is trying to pull the string on the North Koreans. You know, Kim Jong-un, the first foreign leader he wanted to meet was South Korea's Moon Jae-in. The second one was President Trump. Xi Jinping says, no, the optics look really bad. I'm going to force the North Korean to come to Beijing because Kim Jong-un, in Xi Jinping's mind, is a vassal. And so this sort of shows that, look, China does control North Korea. When China really wants something, they get it. And I think that really right now what we are seeing is the Chinese telling the North Koreans, you got to do what we, the Chinese, say.
Yeah, hey, buddy, I'm going to be president for life. You come to me. Harry, let's go to you on this. This is such a wild story. We're still wondering if this meeting with President Trump will really happen. Everybody freaked out when that was announced. But this could be significant because it might involve the U.S. putting pressure on China to help either, smooth this out, pave the way perhaps to a meeting. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's clear the Chinese do have a huge role to play here. But I think there's actually a bigger question you need to ask. Is Kim Jong-un actually panicking? Because we have to remember, what do the North Koreans actually get out of a negotiation with the United States? Nothing. Because now the Trump administration is demanding that they give up their nuclear weapons. We've had John Bolton make a lot of statements, who's going to be the national security advisor, to say the only negotiation is how are we going to pack up your nuclear weapons and bring them back to the United States. So what do the North Koreans get here? I have a feeling the North Koreans could actually be in Beijing to figure out how to get out of this, and hopefully the Chinese can help them do that.
Get out of the meeting. You do the meeting.
Exactly. It's possible.
Let's talk, Gordon, about the thinking of both the Chinese and North Koreans separately on Bolton as national security advisor, because these staff shakeups might kind of, bore people across the country, but they're watched very closely in the Middle East, watched very closely in Asia as well. Bolton, neoconservative, hawk on the Iraq War and other things. What does North Korea think?
Well, I think North Korea is very concerned that the United States is going to strike them, a bloody nose or whatever. Also, I think that they understand that Bolton, with his big proliferation security initiative, is going to cut off North Korea's sales of weapons to, for instance, Iran. This has been going on for decades, and American administrations have not stopped it. I think Bolton, his national security advisor, is going to put an end to that. And I'm sure the North Koreans are very concerned. Also the Chinese, because the Chinese have been aiding in this deadly trade, and they're not going to like to see Bolton in 1600 Pennsylvania really putting an end to their support for North Korea.
Harry.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's 100% accurate. I'd actually go even further. I think John Bolton is North Korea and China's worst nightmare. He's going to drive very hard terms when it comes to negotiations. He's also going to drive hard terms in terms of trade, as you've been talking on for the last few segments. I think it's a fact that Chinese have been really doing a lot of damage to our economy. And now that you're going to have maximum pressure on North Korea, but you're also going to have maximum pressure on China.
I had a friend text me, a dear friend, but he's done very well, let's just put it this way, in New York. And he's a big global trade guy. He's petrified of John Bolton. I mean, I know this guy's afraid of anything, but he literally thinks John Bolton himself is going to blow up the world, Gordon. And I've heard this from Wall Streeter after Wall Streeter, because they're looking at the markets. Oh, my gosh, John Bolton, that's the last person they should have been. Do you hear the same thing I hear? And you see it on TV. They're just in a total frothy meltdown over John Bolton. It's just ludicrous.
Yeah, no, it is ludicrous. You know, this is the way people on the markets work. You know, they don't want any disruption to the way the world is currently at. But, you know, Bolton, I think, is important, because what he's saying is that, look, we've got a China and Russia problem, and we've got to deal with it, because if we want to have a future, we got to make sure that the Chinese and Russians are not attacking our society, which they've been doing by trying to undermine our democracy. They've been trying to close off the global commons, trying to take territory from their neighbors, some of which are our treaty allies. And it's important for, I think, the world to see Beijing and Moscow as it is. And Bolton does that. He understands that that's the problem in the world today.
All right, Harry and Gordon, great segment. Fantastic. Both of you, phenomenal writers as well.